no one suffered like Catherine O'Leary. Though the official investigation had cleared her, books about the fire continued to pin blame squarely on her shoulders.
She must have felt, okay, let's get on with our lives here. And it was after that that all of this, this blame kind of came down on her again and again.
O'Leary was branded a welfare queen who had sought revenge for being taken off the relief rolls. She had never accepted a penny in her life.
She was a woman, she was an immigrant, and I think it was so easy to pick somebody like that. And I think we see that today. Immigrants are always the first ones accused of things, accused of crimes, accused of wrongdoing.
Reporters hounded O'Leary on every anniversary of the fire. They faked interviews with her and even fabricated photos.
They were always trying to snap her picture. Photographers were always coming to the house, and she was always closing the blinds. She would not pose with anybody. So these are some of the examples of the way she was depicted. She looks like some kind of a witch, really. She looks like, she doesn't even look human. It's definitely stuff that myths are made of.
The O'Learys sold their cottage in 1879 and left their beloved Holy Family Parish, moving to South Halsted Street on the city's outskirts. Catherine O'Leary became a recluse, only leaving the house to attend Mass and run errands.
I believe her life became sadder and sadder, really, because she was, being accused on all sides, really. It started with the newspapers, and then that story spread.
Catherine's husband, Patrick, died in 1894. She passed a year later, reportedly of pneumonia.
I think she just couldn't get over it. And my grandmother said Mrs. O'Leary died of a broken heart.
But even in death, O'Leary couldn't escape the abuse.
People would not allow anybody to go to her grave because when people would, it was actually desecrated. People would leave garbage there and awful notes and signs.
One dark night when we were all in bed, Mrs. O'Leary...
A vaudeville parody called A Hot Time in the Old Town became a hit in the years after her death. The song cemented Mrs. O'Leary's place in history as the villain who burned Chicago to the ground.
I think the song is part of our culture. Kids sing it at camp. That perpetuates the myth for sure.
Catherine O'Leary becomes a myth, and the city embraces that myth. For decades after, Chicago would officially celebrate the anniversary of the fire. And they would have Catherine O'Leary reenactors, walk through town with a cow.
To this day, nobody knows who or what started the fire. Some suspect one of the O'Leary's tenants, the McLaughlins, may have snuck into the barn to steal some milk for a celebratory punch.
Another story is that a group of neighborhood kids were playing poker in the O'Leary barn, and somebody knocked over a lantern. There's theories of a guy with the nickname Pegleg Sullivan was smoking a pipe and lit the barn on fire.
While the cause of the Great Fire was disputed, most Chicagoans agreed on one thing. It changed their city for the better. Rubble and debris were shoved into Lake Michigan, creating part of what is now Grant Park. By clearing away old wooden buildings, the fire made way for a new, more modern city.
You should look at the fire like a Chicagoan would look at it, not as a disaster, total disaster. I mean, it takes out a lot of bad stuff as far as housing goes. Wooden buildings that are haphazardly put up, all that stuff disappears overnight.
Young architects soon arrived with a startling new vision, and within a decade, Chicago was reaching for the sky.
And soon enough, we get the skyscraper. Because Chicagoland is so valuable, you build up instead of out. And that kind of innovation and that kind of spirit really does exist in Chicago. It's not just a myth.
And yet, while the city's physical character would change dramatically in the years following the fire, its spirit remained intact. Even as it grew into a modern metropolis, it retained the soul of a frontier town.
Chicago was something that was built, and I say this with ultimate respect, with hustle and chutzpah and energy, and people acting with great independence, creativity, pragmatism. Get something done. If there's a problem, solve it, move on. So Chicago fire is, to me, just another example of this Chicago dynamic mind spirit in action.
As for the O'Leary cottage, it would eventually be demolished. Nearly a century after the fire, the city of Chicago bought the site and put it to a fitting use.
You saw how the water traveled through it. It's ready to go.
Lieutenant Rory Osey trains future firefighters here at Chicago's Fire Academy. He always makes sure to explain the location's significance.
I'll bring them out here and I'll ask them to look at the whole skyline. It's a beautiful skyline, one of the most beautiful skylines in the world. Imagine on that day in 1871 that the entire thing was on fire. All they saw was smoke and flames.
Though it took well over a century, Catherine O'Leary's family would finally be vindicated. Chicago City Council voted on a resolution that officially absolved her of blame in 1997.
My grandmother is Mrs. O'Leary's granddaughter, and she didn't really talk about it too much because they knew the rest of the city thought that they were guilty. This is a copy of the official resolution drawn up by the City Council to exonerate my relative, Mrs. Kate O'Leary, of any wrongdoing associated with the fire. I just wish that she could have been there to be presented with a resolution herself. I think she would be thrilled.